Are you ready? They are ready. Are you ready? Okay, let's start. So, today we're going to talk about diversity. What is diversity? What is the added value of the diversity in the company? And whether there is an added value, right? So, at the beginning, we will start with one question. What is diversity at the workplace? So, I will ask to have our first question. We are going to use AHA slides, and you will be able to answer the questions. Here is the first question. And the first question for the audience is, what is the right definition of diversity in the workplace? You can start voting now. Can you log in? Is everything fine? No? Technical team, people are saying no. Okay, can we have the QR one more time, please? Can we have the QR on the screen one more time, please? Anyone from the technical team, can you help us?
There we go.
Yeah, can you try scanning it? Did it work? Great. So our panelists will have a great opportunity to exercise during our panel. Okay, we can see the results. I will read the answers, so the panelists also will know what it is about. It says, the first one is, company culture is based on hiring people who have been discriminated previously and don't possess the same skills as the privileged ones. The second one says, the number of female employees is equal to or greater than the number of male employees. Next one is workforce composition includes employees of different ages, sexual orientation, socioeconomic backgrounds, etc. And the last one says it is encouraged to have different opinions and being different from others. So 70% of our audience participants said workforce composition includes employees from different genders. Actually, yes, it's as simple as it is. When we talk about diversity in the workplace, we talk about people who are different from each other based on their gender, their socioeconomic background, their educational level, and so on. So my first question will go to Arsen, who is, by the way, the Director of Engineering and Site Leader at Adobe Armenia. Arsen, you're heading an Armenian branch of a multinational company. You face a lot of issues related to cultural differences, and my question is, what is diversity for you and why does it matter?
Hello, everyone. Glad to be here, and thanks for the question, Armine. For me personally, quite honestly, diversity starts from response number 3 over here. But the ultimate goal of having a diverse workforce is to actually be able to consolidate different opinions and different approaches to various problems. Having a leadership team composed by people of different genders, ages, and ethnicities won't really solve your diversity problem in case your culture promotes jerks to leadership roles, right? So, even if your gender equal, like 50% of your leaders are women, in case your culture promotes jerks to leadership roles, you will just have like female jerks in leadership roles, and you won't have this real diverse picture of various opinions and everything blending and bringing to some innovative solutions for the company. For me, diversity is a journey. It's not a place where you can really say, we are diverse. I'll just rely back to a story of literally a couple of days old. I was having a conversation with 2 female leaders at Adobe Armenia, and they actually came up with this idea, and they basically agreed together on that our leadership team of Adobe Armenia, even though it's roughly 50-50 in terms of gender composition, we really don't have a lot of diversity because all of us are thinking the same way about various issues. So we have worked together so much that we have formed this common approach, common understanding, and this is not diversity. Even though the team is basically composed of males and females, it's not diverse. So it's a journey where, yes, setting up your hiring processes, managing your culture so that it's inclusive for people from different genders, ages, ethnicities, and so on. This is the minimum plan, but this is where it only starts. And having achieved certain percentages of different genders, ages, ethnicities, and so on, still doesn't guarantee you diversity. That's my approach.
That's a very good answer, Arsen. Any of the panelists would like to add?
Yes, I would like to add to what
let me introduce you. Ripsime Hakopian. Ripsime is a senior software engineering manager at Synopsys. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. First of all, I'm honored to be here and to be able to talk in this panel. So what I would like to add is Arsen was absolutely right saying that it's hard to define diversity in a single way. Yeah, it's hard to say when you achieved it. But the lack of diversity is always striking. So our goal has to have more diversity in every sense that was mentioned.
Okay, thank you very much. Tani. Tani is the CEO of Goals. We will talk about it a little bit later. Tani?
I agree with everything that Arsen stated, and the first step to creating a diverse environment is to be inclusive of the different types of people that can contribute to the overall well-being of the organization. With that being said, it's very important, and something that he also touched upon, that a cultural diversity is also necessary. So you could have different people from different backgrounds, but essentially they're the same brand of people. So how do you recruit, how do you engage, how do you create a space where people who aren't like you feel like they belong? Because you have to get people to apply to be part of your organization, or you have to headhunt and they need to want to become part of your organization. And if your work culture, your work environment isn't welcoming of, other thinking or a different mindset. And I think that that's something from an organizational perspective that we really need to focus on to see how we can truly foster diversity within our environment to then be able to promote it externally. However, with that being said, and as much as I encourage diversity in the workplace, it's not without its challenges, because now you're having to manage and work with people who come from all different, backgrounds, all different walks of life, and the people management aspect of that becomes increasingly difficult. So it's something that's, I believe, that's an ongoing learning process, and it's an ever-evolving internal environment.
Okay, thank you, Tani. Lucine? Lucine is a tech lead at HubSpot.
Hi, everyone. Excited to be here. Thanks, Armina. So I'd like to add what diversity means for me personally. Like, we talk about diversity and inclusion, which go hand in hand for most of the cases. We speak about it all the time. It's all the company's agendas. Everyone cares about it. It's on the stages of conferences. But when I'm thinking of diversity, how all of these conversations affect the people who go to work day to day. Like, we speak about it all the time, and then it's going to have an impact on average employees who go to work. Like, how is this connected, right? How is this impacting people? And when I'm thinking about a workplace, the first thing that I care about is that I sincerely feel happy at a workplace. I sincerely want to go to work. Whether it's Monday or Friday, I feel joy being in the place. And that's not the salary, that's not the fancy office, it's all old school stuff, right? So the first thing that people care about, and I care about, and I think most of the people would care about, is this feeling of belonging, right? This feeling of being accepted as who you are, being included and being involved and engaged, right? This feeling of being a part of the company and being accepted, no matter your gender, your age, your religion, your beliefs, your background, your looks, your appearances, just being accepted who you are. And being themselves is one of the best feelings that people can get in the workplace, because people spend most of their awake time in the workplace. If they're going to pretend to be someone else, to be accepted, if they're going to pretend they are different from who they are, it's not going to take anywhere. They won't just feel fulfilled and satisfied. So for me, being in a really diverse company is having this feeling of being accepted as who you are.
Thank you, Lucine. Very good point. Narek?
Yeah, hey everyone.
Narek is the CEO at ARM Code Academy. Sorry, I didn't introduce you.
Thank you.
I kind of feel that everyone knows you, that's why.
Just want to add a thing. I want to look at this question from another side. Of course, diversity for me personally is about inclusive mindset. It's a crucial component of the organizational culture of companies. But first of all, for me, diversity is well-designed and well-defined processes in the company. Well-defined hiring procedures, well-defined performance reviews, promotion policies, and so on, that supports to treat everyone equally. Of course, everyone in the company should be diverse, should be tolerant, should be inclusive, and so on. But I don't like to rely on the human factor first. So well-designed processes, which helps us to do that, will be the first thing we should do in the companies.
Okay, thank you, Narek. Actually, diversity is something that we have an idea, companies, they try to bring the number of women and men, bring up the number of women and bring some equality in the companies. But there are some discriminations that we are not really aware of. Yeah, we're not enough conscious about these discriminations. So the question for the audience, can you scan the code? Or our, they say it's okay, we will try. Is it scanning? Okay, the QR is okay. So the question is, who is the most discriminated against during job interviews? So we have here overweight people, overweight person, unexperienced person, person who asks for higher salaries, women, unattractive person, and beautiful women. So, very interesting. Okay, voting is still going on. Let's wait for a few seconds. So you think beautiful women are being discriminated? Very nice. Okay, so actually many researches were conducted, and based on our unconscious biases, the results show that most people who are the most discriminated are overweight people. People who are overweight and who are not attractive enough, they are discriminated the most. It's not women, it's not age, and we never talk about these discriminations because we don't see them, right? So, very fun fact, people who have curly hair, they have a positive discrimination towards people who have curly hair. So as you can see, Lucina is naturally curly. So my question is going to go to her. But what's interesting that we have the same positive discrimination towards bald people because there is a high chance that they were curly once. So Lucina, the question to you, my question will be, we have unconscious biases. We have a lot of unconscious discriminations that we don't know about. And you are a tech lead, which which forces you to work with many people with different backgrounds, and you don't work in Armenia. I mean, there are cultural differences, right? So my question is, how do you understand that you might have a bias, that you might have a discrimination, and how you fight your biases?
Yeah, that's a tough thing to recognize because, as Armina mentioned, biases are mostly unconscious and you don't know about it. So what we try to do at HubSpot, we just base on facts rather than personal opinions. So whenever we do an interview, we have this software where we fill in the details, the summary of the interview, and it goes to hiring manager, right? And there we are urged to not include any personal opinion or anything that might be from like our point of view, right? So we only write there the facts. This person answered this question this way, they solved this problem this way. So only the facts which are completely like objective, right? So we don't add any subjective thing into that. Well, with small companies, it might be more challenging because it's a small group of people, they hire a new person, they might just discuss like themselves casually, yeah, I liked this person because of this and that, no, I didn't like this part and stuff. It's very personal, and that's where the biases show up, right? So we just try to just be based on the facts and don't include anything personal. It might be bad for curly people, but yeah, just my advice would be to overcome the unconscious biases is just all the time think if this is my thought or this is an objective fact that just happened. I liked this person because of this is very subjective. This person answered this question this way, that's a fact. So yeah, that's how we try to fight these unconscious biases.
Okay, thanks. By the way, do we have people with green eyes in the audience? Green eyes? Yeah, you are prone to more discrimination, by the way, in-group biases. So there are some practices used in different companies, and one of them says that when I'm interviewing a person from Google, I have already some idea that this person is from Google, he's going to be good. Yeah? So what I do, whatever answer I get, I just accept it. It's like kind of confirmation bias. I accept it. I say he's from Google, he's awesome. And whenever I interview someone who is from a government office, I say, she worked in the government, so what should she be, yeah? And what happens is that many companies right now are doing the professional interviews without resumes. So you don't have any bias towards the person. Do you have any advices, any practices, anything like that you would like to share with the audience? Tenny, you wanted to say something? Yeah.
I did. To touch on the topic that Lucina was talking about, and she brought up a very good point. Depending on the size of the company and the number of staff that are working within a team or the company, I want to say that it matters on who you're bringing in, because the larger the organization is, it's easier to diversify your staff because you have many more positions to fill, you have many more types of positions to fill, and you can always bring in more and more people. But I also have the experience of working with startups. So if you're 5 people sitting in a tiny room sharing desks, as much as it would be amazing to have diversity within the group of 5, and I truly believe that that is also achievable, because I believe that that's where true innovation happens. It becomes harder because you argue a lot more and there's a lot more discussions around everything. But that's when those like aha moments and the innovations really come out. But at the same time, when you are a smaller team, there has to be a common language of understanding. Now, let's not confuse your office culture with diversity. You can have an amazing group of diverse people and just a horrible office culture. So you have to set your office culture properly in order for people to, be able to work together. So let's also be careful not to blame diversity for failure in some circumstances. And let's, maybe take a look at how we're not promoting an environment where we're able to, flourish as a diverse group of people. The larger the company is, the harder it becomes to preserve this like positive culture, let's say, because you're having more and more types of people that are included, within the same workspace. So yeah, I just want to, point out a few things, that there are challenges that comes with the positives, and it's an ever-evolving mechanism.
Yeah. Thank you, Tenny. Ripsima, you wanted to say?
I totally agree with you. Yes, it is easier to follow up diversity in larger companies, and it is easier to fit for a person. Fit in a sense that if you are, if you feel that you not fit in a small group, you can change to a larger group, a unit that is doing something really different, yeah, something that is closer to your heart. And since it is easier for larger companies, yeah, and why it is hard for startups or small companies, yes, for small businesses, it's just there will never be any decision made, right? So if there are 5 people with 4 opinions, then at least 3 of them will be neglected, yeah, or will feel downplayed, yeah, by that one decision that was made. So and with that, larger companies have a higher responsibility to ensure that there's diversity. So yesterday we heard an opinion that the company does not follow the percentage of women and men or any other type of individual that works there. But if you do not follow, the numbers, you cannot follow the outcome as well. Yes, and it is really crucial for large companies to create that culture, create the environment, and follow up at every step. Yeah, train people, educate them, train them to recognize their own biases, because you cannot do without that. At least if you try to find someone who has to fit in a group, right? Alike attracts alike. So you will be biased in any way, but you should stop yourself at the very moment, say, oh, wow, and then continue with the technical thing. So that is really a practice that should be implied by the company itself.
Actually, these are very good points. We were working with a company who was really proud of the idea that they don't hire anyone who doesn't like jazz. And they were saying, this is our corporate culture. Guys, that's not a culture, that's a discrimination. That's a bad discrimination. We have a question for the audience. This time we're going to have 2 questions. Can we have the QR, please? And the question is, what is the ratio of women in tech, in the Armenian tech companies? Can we have the QR, please? Can you scan it? No? Can you scan? Yes, good. Okay, we have 4 options, 45%, 65%, 30%, and 20%. What is the ratio of women in Armenian tech companies? Your specialty. Okay, so we have around 50% of participants thinking that it's 45%. We have 30%, and 6% thinks 65%, very optimistic, and we have a pessimistic version of 20%. So basically it's around 45%, and it's changing from year to year. Now let's go to our second question. Actually, 45% women in tech companies is a very good ratio, yeah, if we compare with other countries. Let's go to our next question. Can we have the next QR on our screen? Can you scan it? Yes? Okay. Ripsima already knows what to do. Okay, so the question is, what are the positions that are more often occupied by women in the Armenian tech companies? So we have options: software engineering, customer support, sales, HR positions. Actually, we have data from Staff.am, which is a job portal in Armenia, the most used one. And what is the statistics? 78% of salespeople are women. Around 90% of HR and tech recruiters are women. And 85% of customer support specialists are women. And can you guess the number of software engineers? Can you guess, anyone from the audience? 50? 10? Actually, it's just 25%. So when we talk about women in Armenian tech companies, usually they occupy non-tech positions, right? So the question here is why? And I want to turn to Ripsima for this question because she's a senior software engineering lead. So she started as a software engineer and she's now occupying a very good position. How did you choose your profession? And what do you think? Why women choose, let's say, easier professions or professions that don't require more technical knowledge, yeah? Let's say this way. Or even if they go for software engineering, usually they go for front end and they don't choose like Python. And what is the reason? What do you think?
Yes, I think this subject was touched many times yesterday and today. Yes, it's mostly culture-driven, education-driven, yeah, family uprising-driven. It all comes from others' natural biases. Yes, and for girls to step in technical universities, even that creates a horrible perception outside of their inner circle, yeah, and even when they achieve at school, and we see that most of highly achieving pupils at schools are girls. So everyone can remember top 3 achieving students in their classes, and they would be mostly they would be girls. And then when it comes to technical engineering, you enter the educational institution and, you face obviously the most common Armenian bias that is still out there is that, long hair, short brain. That's inevitable, yeah. And then you have to step over all those obstacles to show everyone around you that you are worthy. Yeah, every girl has to do that. They have to work harder and invest in their education, in their networking. They have to, to pave the way for themselves. Mostly it's that. And when all of this is done, then it's easier from them. Yeah, but I believe that most of the girls just get tired along the way, and they choose. Everyone wants to be happy. Yes, and if you work tirelessly, it's harder to be happy. So everyone chooses a path that accelerates that sense of happiness and brings the desired result. Maybe compromised, or you bring in a compromise to get something earlier than everything that you want later. Yeah, and that creates the difficulty to step into the industry. And once you are in the industry, of course, yeah, if you have to compete with 80% of men in the workplace, that's also creating some hardships, but that's overcomable. That's totally resolvable.
Actually, there is a very interesting thing why I mentioned earlier easy professions, because there is a in-group bias for women, and they think that, for example, working as a project management manager is easier than working as a software developer. So they go for easy positions. And when you ask, why do you go for easy positions? They say, because I have family, I have to take care of my family. That's why I have to be I have to choose something which is easier. One interesting case I remembered, we were working with a team, we were doing agile transformation there, and the planning started. And what happened is that we saw all the guys going to the planning room and ladies sitting around. I asked one of the ladies, why don't you participate in the planning? And she said, well, you know, our guys, they're very nice. They do the planning, they don't bother us with the planning, then divide the tasks, and they take the most difficult tasks and give us the easier ones, yeah? So this is a real problem. And what do you think, how the in-group biases affect women with choosing their professions? Arsen, you wanted to say something?
Thank you. First of all, just to kind of lay the ground, I violently disagree that these positions are inherently easier than software engineering.
Exactly, exactly.
Pushing that.
That's why it's an in-group bias. They think that it's easier, right?
It's easier because the engineers think so.
Okay.
But task an engineer to do an HR's role for a week, they will fail on all the directions. So the difference between these roles and the tech roles is the social element contained in these roles of HR, customer support, program management, and what was the other one? Again, sales.
Sales, yeah.
Those roles involve social elements. So instead of, to try to understand this phenomena, why women are actually occupying the majority of positions in these disciplines, I think we need to look into education, as Hrypsime mentioned. And I don't think this is an Armenia problem. This is a worldwide problem where, like decades and decades, people were thinking that women are not suitable for STEM disciplines, and instead would do better in disciplines involving the social aspect. Which is not true, but the humanity has lived that way for decades. And currently we are seeing, in these statistics, we are seeing the results of that, let's say, 80-year-long misunderstanding. I think this is changing. It's going to take time, but even in Armenia, if you look at the proportion of female students in technical directions, it's increasing, and it's been increasing like for the last 20 years or so. It hasn't been the same when I was in the university. Now it's completely different, and I really believe that in 10 or 20 years' time we're going to see a different picture. We can certainly help the trend, but I don't think we are still in that archaic way of thinking, you know, like separating the way of the way brains work depending on the gender.
Thank you, Arsen. I would like to ask a question to Narek. Narek, you're heading I wouldn't even say training center, but an institution which has more applicants than all Armenian higher educational institutions together. What are the trends you see today?
You mean in terms of applicants and gender proportion?
In terms of the ratio of women as your applicants, in terms of people who are coming, studying, and then working with their profession. What are the trends?
Uh, Basically, we do not focus on any other selection criteria rather than exams and tests they pass. Uh, I want to talk about two trends. First of all, my observation is that non-tech professions are more demanded now. I mean, tech companies struggles more in hiring processes for product managers, product designers, product marketing specialists, content writers, technical recruiters, HR staff, business development, growth people, and so on, and less with software engineering today. So being occupied more in non-tech professions is even better. The second thing I observed is that salaries for growth specialists, for product managers, technical recruiters are growing way faster than in software engineering. So
That's
it's a good
something
sign.
new people pay attention to that.
Yeah, it's a market. It's a labor market. So we have very few professionals in, in growth, in product management, in HR, and so on. So that's why their salaries will grow faster, and it will be trend for several years for sure.
Okay, thank you, Narek. Next question is related to one of the situations we faced, I guess, last year, right? Can we have the question on the screen, please, for the audience? So the question is, recently Alexis Ohanian resigned from his position as a board member of Reddit and urged the other board members to give the position to a black person. So there are two quite opposing positions here. Some people, can we have the QR, please, for the question? Okay, thanks. Can you scan it? Yes? So there are two opinions. Some people, they say it's great. Others, they say you don't cure discrimination with discrimination. So let's see the results, and then my question will go to Tenny. Okay, so 86% of our participants think that this is not the right way to bring diversity, right? So Tenny, you bring diversity to football and not only. Can you tell us your opinion? There are these two drastically different opinions. So should we give quotas for women or other previously disadvantaged people, or should we create equal opportunities for everyone and give them the way to go forward? What's your opinion here?
This is a tough one, because if you think about it, you're saying we should give equal opportunities for everyone, but that hasn't been done, and it's still not happening, not only in Armenia, but across the world. So we've failed there. Now, putting quotas for university admissions, putting quotas for hiring for companies, this isn't a solution, but it's a push towards the right direction. So it forces universities, it forces companies, organizations to think of inclusion, to think of diversity. It's not necessarily going to change mindsets, but without having those policies in place, you're basically ensuring the exclusion of a diverse group of people. I'm not saying that that's the case everywhere, but it's probably going to happen. And if we look at the survey that we did earlier and, you know, the information that you brought, that overweight people are sort of overlooked for certain positions, or if you look a certain way, you might get overlooked for certain positions. And even to this day, when people ask for a photo when you're trying to apply for a job, that's already discriminating against who you are based on your look, based on your gender, based on your ethnicity. So it's a little bit of a gray area. So I don't think that there's a right or wrong way of doing things. I do believe that there, and if you look at all the major, for example, tech companies, they all have policies in place that ensure a diverse workspace. So yes, we need to have some sort of regulation that allows for equal opportunity for, you know, minorities or different types of individuals. But we also simultaneously need to work on changing our attitudes and changing our mindsets. Honestly, I feel like when you're hiring a person, it shouldn't be based on what they look like and what their outside is. It should be more focused on what's the benefit that they can bring to the company as a whole. And like I said, you know, sometimes great things happen when you have an assortment of people sitting in the same room. So yeah, that would be my answer to that question.
Thanks. There was a case, I remember it was a very loud case, maybe you have seen it as well. One man was complaining that he was preparing for a position for all his life, and when the position came up, HR said, you know, we have quotas for women and this position should go to a woman. This is a discrimination again against one person, and this person says, okay, women were discriminated during last years. Yeah, what I have to do with that? So do we have an opposing opinion here saying that this is a discrimination, we shouldn't do that? Yeah, as Tani said, she's more prone to having quotas, it will help, but she's saying that it's a gray area and there is no right answer to this question. Any other opinions? Yes, Arsen?
Look, I don't want to say I oppose to this. I just want to say I don't know. And when I don't know, when we don't know, doing some arbitrary actions may bring more harm than good. To me, this is an extremely deep problem and an extremely superficial solution to that. Quotas often bring to situations where you just don't let go of an incompetent person representing a certain minority, because as a hiring manager, you really don't want to get into that headache of trying to backfill them with the exact same person representing the same minority group, and this brings to inefficiencies. Now, why doesn't Alexis actually do his homework and get acquainted to the results of this research that overweight people are really the most discriminated group, and replace himself with an overweight person? What's the point of kind of choosing the skin color as an action here? If we take this approach to an extreme, and I think this is the way to understand for each approach if it's valid or not. If we take this approach to an extreme, then he would have to do this for overweight people, and this is some sort of a body shaming. If you have quotas for overweight people, just imagine what those people would feel when they're filling in those quotas. It's completely not the same as being a representative of a certain gender or ethnicity or skin color. So basically, I think quotas are really a very high level, easy taken, just kind of an easily perceived solution just to secure certain PR activity rather than really solve the problem. As humans, we need to really invest in educating our fellow citizens in that all humans are equal, irrelevant of their disabilities and belonging to minor groups instead of investing in actions like this.
Thank you, Arsen. Narek?
I want to get back to the Armenian reality, and from my point of view, quotas and any kind of regulations are good in critical situations. I mean, gender discrimination in Armenian tech is not in the critical situation from my point of view. So we have a lot of things to do here, but it's not in critical situation. The thing we are not talking about usually is the age discrimination. And in terms of age discrimination, both hiring unexperienced people and both hiring 40+ people is the thing that can be regulated from my point of view, because it's a social problem. And we need to push employers as well to hire juniors. We need to push employers to hire elder people, because now a lot of companies reject elder people, saying like they are not cultural fit. They just prove that they don't know what cultural fit means, and maybe even they don't have that culture.
Actually, I'm not sure which country, that's why I will not name the country, but in one of the countries, cultural fit term was considered to be discrimination. So this is something that we have to be aware of. We can't push everything under the cultural fit, right?
Yeah, we can have a value set. We can have a well-designed scorecard to assess people by values, but not use cultural fit as just an excuse.
Yeah, exactly. And we came to our last question, which is, can we have the question on our screen, please? So this is the last question we are going to ask the audience. The real benefit of having a diverse team. What's interesting is that recently different researchers, as Tani was saying, like if it's a small team, it's easier to work when you're a homogeneous team, right? So recently there were many research were conducted, and they say that in many positions, in some roles, it's easier to work with homogeneous team. They bring very good results, everything is brilliant, and they don't need diversity. They don't need to push diversity, right? Can you answer the question? And the question is, the real benefit of having a diverse team. So the first answer is increased creativity and innovation. Second one, improved company reputation. Third one, greater opportunities for professional growth. And the last one, better decision making. Let's see the results. I guess it wasn't scanned. Can you scan? No? Okay, so we have 65% for increased creativity and innovation. Actually, this question is a little bit different and tricky because all the answers are correct. There is no wrong answer here. The only problem is that sometimes companies focus on improved company reputation only and start doing some actions on bringing diverse people to the company just to tell that we have diversity, we're diverse, yeah? And what would happen if people focused on the real value that diversity can bring? We are right now on a conference which is FemInno, yeah? Female Innovation. And actually, we can't have innovation without diversity and diverse opinions, as Arsen said, right? So what would be your advice to people who are sitting here, people who will be listening to these talks later? What would be your advice to them? How to deal with diversity in their companies? if they are discriminated or if they are a company owner and they want to start with diversity, what would be your advice to them? Let's start with Arsen and go on.
My advice to every professional, every leader, current and future, would be to remember that in terms of diversity, we have these two levels. We have this so-called notion of surface diversity, which is gender, ethnicity, skin color, and so on. And then we have the real diversity, diversity in opinions, and the openness of the groups to those diverse opinions, ability to work with those opinions. And that is exactly what brings to better decision making, and then to innovation, creativity, and then to better company reputation, and so on. The surface diversity is important because when people, and there are a lot of studies in this regard, the surface diversity is important because when people see diverse looks around them, they kind of get more open to diverse opinions. When you really don't, when you only see like white males around you, you don't develop that openness to diversity in the group. Although, like purely theoretically, you can have a diverse opinions in a white male-only group as well, which is practically impossible to achieve. But yeah, that would be my advice. Just know that the surface diversity is just the step first. It is the minimum ground where you actually start to build real diversity.
Okay, thank you, Arsen. We have some questions from the audience that we will see here. And I will read a question, and whoever wants to answer, they will answer. If you had two equal candidates, whom would you prefer to hire? Someone who is 45 plus years old or someone who is younger, and why? Thank you. Who wants to answer the question? Lipsi ma'am?
Yes. So in our experience, well, it really matters on the situation. It really matters on the task that you are going to solve, on the future that you are going to build. So there cannot be any truly equal candidates. Yeah? It's not just you have, well, they are perfectly the same and just one is younger, one is older. So that really depends on other non-tangible characteristics as well. But really that should be situational. And the best candidate should be hired for the role. And that way, well, the teams will develop, the company will develop, and the business overall will benefit from such decisions.
Thank you. The second question, I think it was greatly answered. How much are the diversity and the success of the company correlated? We have here, how much are the disabled people involved in your companies now?
Okay. I can answer that question.
Sure.
We're a very small group at Goals Armenia. However, I like to pride on the fact that we work with over 80 communities, with over 1,000 girls that play football or soccer in Armenia, which is generally, at least for now, considered a very male-dominant sport. And if, as an organization, we claim to be for every girl, then we also need to live into the fact that a lot of our girls have some sort of disabilities. It could be a learning disability, it could be a physical disability, it could be, you know, it could be something you just don't see. And the same applies to our staff and our volunteers and our coaches. We 100% do not discriminate based on physical or mental disability. And like I said, if you're an organization that claims to be for everyone, that you really need to truly live into that.
Thank you, Tani. I think our time is over. Seda is telling me to sum up already. I want to thank our panelists for very interesting discussion and different opinions. And I hope that after this panel, people who are sitting in the audience will think a little bit differently and from different angles, and will look at their situations, the situations others are finding themselves, and will try to bring the real diversity into their teams and into their companies. And remember, as our panelists said, the diversity is not only including women or old people, it's how you use their differences for the good of your company. Thank you very much. Thanks for your time, and thanks for your time as well.